Oh, you are not ready for how this one unfolds. Picture this. I walk into what's supposed to be a casual Sunday dinner with my parents, only to get ambushed with a property tax bill. Not a conversation, not a heads up, just a straight-up demand for money. And the reason? Because my sister needs it for her new business venture. Yeah, you heard that right. My father, pacing back and forth in their pristine vacation home, one that I'd been secretly paying taxes on, looks me dead in the eye and says, "You have more than enough. You should be helping your family." At that moment, I realized something. This wasn't about family. It never had been. Let me back up. I'm Emily, 33, and I built my own career as a self-taught day trader. No handouts, no trust fund, just pure strategy and relentless work. And for years, I had been quietly covering my family's expenses, property taxes, my sister Lauren's car, even those fancy vacations they loved so much. Never questioned it, never complained. I thought I was just doing my part. But now they were expecting it. And that's when I noticed the envelope, a thick, official-looking document, half hidden under some magazines on the coffee table. The words "Trust Fund" and Lauren Harrington peeked out like a flashing warning sign. My stomach turned. I reached for it. "Emily, that's private," my father snapped. Too late. My hands were already trembling as I scanned the paper, and there it was, $350,000. A trust fund. For Lauren. Only Lauren. Contributions scheduled for future deposits. Money they never had when I was struggling to pay for school. Money they never had when I had to work 3 jobs just to stay afloat. I looked up, and for the first time I saw my parents clearly. The favoritism, the excuses, the lies wrapped in guilt trips. "When were you going to tell me about this?" My voice was steady, but inside, I was done. My father yanked the paper from my hands, stuffing it back into the envelope. "You weren't supposed to see that," he muttered. "Oh, but I did, and that changed everything." I laughed. Actually laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. "I guess that explains why you never helped with my student loans." And just like that, my entire childhood snapped into focus. Lauren got everything. Dance lessons, a new car, tuition covered in full. Me? I was told to be independent, to figure it out, to not ask for too much. And like an idiot, I believed them. My mother finally spoke, her voice sickly sweet, like she was about to sell me on some grand, noble sacrifice. "Sweetheart, your sister needs more help than you do. You've always been so capable. We're just so proud of how well you've done on your own." Oh, that was it. I put the tax bill down, smoothed it out, and then, with the calmest voice imaginable, I said, "You're right." My father's face twitched. "What?" "You're right," I repeated. "I've done just fine on my own, and from now on, you can do the same." Then I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out. The fallout. Oh, trust me, it was glorious. But that's another story. Oh, you are not ready for how this one unfolds. Imagine this. I walk into what's supposed to be a casual Sunday dinner with my parents, and before I can even take my coat off, my father slides a property tax bill across the table. No greeting, no small talk, just a demand. "The taxes are due next month, and the HOA fees increased again. You'll take care of it, right?" His tone is casual, like we're discussing the weather. At first, I just sit there, stunned, because this isn't new. I've been paying for this house, their house, for years. I've covered the taxes, repairs, vacations, even my sister Lauren's car payments when she claimed she was struggling. And up until now, I never questioned it. Family helps family, right? But then, I see it. A thick envelope, half hidden under a magazine on the coffee table. The words "Trust Fund" and Lauren Harrington peek out like flashing warning signs. My stomach knots. I reach for it. "Emily, that's private," my father snaps. Too late. My hands shake as I scan the document. And there it is, $350,000. A trust fund. For Lauren. Contributions scheduled for future deposits. My breath catches. This whole time, when I was working 2 jobs in college, when I had to scrape together money for my first apartment, when I had begged for help, they had money. They just chose to save it for Lauren. "When were you going to tell me about this?" My voice is eerily calm. My father shifts uncomfortably. "Investment decisions aren't that simple, Emily. We had to think about the future." "Just not my future," I say, realization slamming into me like a freight train. It all clicks. The favoritism, the excuses, the lies. Lauren got a brand new car at 16. I took the bus. She went to a private university, fully funded. I juggled scholarships and 30-hour work weeks. Every time I asked for help, I was told there wasn't enough. And yet, here was hard proof that they had been funneling money into my sister's future while letting me bankroll their lifestyle. Something inside me snaps. I pick up the tax bill. "I'll take care of it," I say softly. My father relaxes, missing the steel in my voice. The drive back to my apartment is a blur. I don't even feel the cold creeping through Salt Lake City's streets. The second I get home, I open my laptop, ignoring the endless texts from my father, making sure I don't forget the tax payment. I pull up the spreadsheet, the one I've been keeping for years but never thought I'd need. Family contributions, 5 years of property tax payments, $43,500. Lauren's car payments, $17,680. Vacation home roof repairs, $12,000. Mom's knee surgery. Insurance wouldn't cover it. $8,200 family vacations that I thought were gifts. $22,450 total, $103,830. I stare at the number, my stomach twisting. Every dollar I had given while they hoarded money for Lauren. And the worst part? They expected it. There was no gratitude, no acknowledgement, just expectation. And then Lauren texts me. "Dad says you're being difficult about the taxes. Don't be selfish, Emily." I actually laugh. Number no, this ends now. The next morning, I call in sick and drive straight to my financial advisor, Patrick. I lay out everything, the payments, the trust fund, the years of being used. Patrick listens, flipping through my records, his expression growing darker by the second. "Emily," he finally says, "this is financial abuse." That word makes my breath catch. You've been propping up their lifestyle while they secretly set your sister up for life. If this were a business dispute, you'd have grounds for legal action. I lean forward. Then let's treat it like one. For the next 2 hours, we draft a plan. Patrick connects me with a forensic accountant, Marcus, who will go through every payment and formalize it into a detailed financial report. Then Patrick helps me draft an official request for reimbursement, one that's legally binding. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asks as we finish. Family money disputes get ugly fast. I think about the trust fund, the vacations, the guilt trips disguised as love. The bill my father pushed across the table like I owed them something. I meet Patrick's gaze and say, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." This was long overdue. For years, I'd been the family's unofficial bank, paying their bills, covering their expenses, and never once hearing a thank you. But after discovering the $350,000 trust fund they'd been secretly padding for Lauren, while telling me they were broke, I was done. It was time they learned what happens when the golden goose stops laying eggs. 1 week after that eye-opening Sunday dinner, I sat in the office of Marcus Delgado, a forensic accountant, watching as he sorted through stacks of financial statements, receipts, and bank transfers. "Your documentation is impressive," he noted, skimming my spreadsheet. "Most people don't keep records this detailed. I'd always been meticulous, especially when it came to money. Day trading had trained me to track every dollar like a hawk." "So, what's the damage?" I asked, bracing myself. Marcus slid the final report across the desk. $118,745. My stomach dropped. "The extra $14,915 is from lost investment growth," he explained. "If you'd put that money into your portfolio instead of your family, that's how much you'd have earned in returns." I exhaled slowly. Seeing it in black and white made it real. The financial betrayal was no longer just an ugly feeling. It was cold, hard numbers. "What now?" I asked, my voice steady. "That depends on how far you want to take this," Marcus said. "If you want legal restitution, you could pursue a case, though family cases are messy without formal agreements. If you just want leverage, this report makes your position airtight." I smirked. "Leverage will do for now." That same night, as if on cue, my phone started buzzing. "Dad, haven't seen the tax payment come through. Due date's coming up. Lauren, Dad says you're being difficult. After all they've done for you?" "Really, Emily?" I turned off my phone. Let them wonder. 3 days later, my mother called. "Emily, your father's concerned about the property taxes," she started, her voice laced with forced politeness. "The due date is next week." "I know when it's due," I said flatly. "Well, will you be handling it?" she pressed. "You've always been so reliable with these things." There it was, that casual assumption that I'd just keep paying, no questions asked. "Not this time." Silence. Then finally, "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm not paying your taxes, or anything else." Panic seeped into her voice. But we're counting on you." I let that sit for a moment. "Right. Just like you counted on me to cover thousands of dollars in expenses while secretly funneling money into Lauren's trust fund?" Silence. "Your father told me you saw that," she said finally, her voice tight. "I did. And now I understand exactly where I stand in this family." "Emily, you have to understand." "No, I do understand." I cut her off. "I understand that in 5 years I've given this family nearly $120,000 while you've been securing Lauren's future. I understand that every time I asked for help, you told me there wasn't enough money, while you were sitting on a trust fund for her." "That's not fair," she whispered. "No, it's not. But now, it finally is." I hung up. I knew my father wouldn't let this slide. He'd always treated my financial support as an obligation, not generosity. But this time, I was in control. The next morning, I took action. First, I canceled the automatic payment for Lauren's car. Not my problem anymore. Second, I removed myself as an authorized payer on all family accounts. They were on their own now. Third, I transferred $120,000 from my brokerage account into a new fund labeled My Future. For the first time in years, I felt free. And the best part? The real storm hadn't even hit them yet. For years, I had been their personal ATM, their silent financial safety net. But the moment I cut them off, the fallout was immediate, and it was glorious. By noon, my phone was drowning in missed calls and texts. I ignored them all, letting the chaos simmer while I focused on what actually mattered, my trading day. It wasn't until later, after I'd closed my positions that I indulged in the spectacle. Lauren. What the hell, Emily? The bank says my car payment was declined. Are you trying to ruin my credit? I have plans this weekend. Fix this now. Dad, call me immediately. This is unacceptable. You can't just abandon your responsibilities to this family. Mom, Emily, please, your father is beside himself. Lauren can't make her car payment, and the property taxes are overdue. Whatever's upset you, we can talk about it. Please call us back. Not one acknowledgement of the trust fund. Not a single word about how I had been funding their lives for years. Just demands, expectations, and pressure to fall back in line. I was about to craft a measured response when my intercom buzzed. Ms. Harrington, your father is here demanding to see you, the building security guard reported. He's quite insistent. I sighed. Tell him I'm not available. He says he won't leave until you come down. I didn't even hesitate. Then call the police. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Cousin Michael. Just saw Uncle Robert getting escorted out of your building by security. You okay? That surprised me. Michael and I hadn't spoken in months. I texted back, family financial drama. Nothing I can't handle. His response was immediate. About time you stood up to them. The way they've treated you versus Lauren has been wrong for years. I stared at my phone. I had assumed nobody else in the family noticed the blatant favoritism. That message? It was the validation I hadn't even realized I needed. That night, at exactly 7 p.m., my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. Lauren. Arms crossed, foot tapping like a petulant child. I opened the door just enough to block the entrance. What do you want? What do I want? She scoffed. I want to know why you're acting like a complete psycho. My car payment bounced. Dad says you're refusing to pay the lake house taxes. Correct, I interrupted smoothly. Her expression flickered. First confusion, then anger. Why? What's your problem? I folded my arms. The problem is that I've contributed almost $120,000 to this family over the last 5 years, while Dad was quietly building a trust fund for you. Her face paled. Then just as quickly, she recovered. That's different, she said, voice laced with entitlement. The trust is for my future. I need that security. I raised an eyebrow. And I don't? You've always been the smart one, she argued, like that somehow justified the blatant financial favoritism. You have your fancy trading career. I'm still trying to find my path. I let out a short laugh. At 31, Lauren? While I'm paying your car payments and funding Mom and Dad's vacations? She flushed but doubled down. You never complained before, because I didn't know I was being played. That was when she switched tactics, her expression softening as she reached for my arm. Look, Emily, I understand you're upset, but we're family. We need your help. If you don't pay the taxes, Dad says they might lose the lake house. I stepped back, shaking off her touch. Not my problem. You'd let them lose the house? She gasped, as if I had suggested burning it to the ground. The place we spent our summers? How can you be so cold? I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw it. The entitlement. The sheer inability to comprehend why I would stop funding their lives. I tilted my head. They have options. Like what? She snapped. Oh, I don't know. I pretended to think. Maybe dipping into that $350,000 trust fund Dad's been building for you? Her face hardened. That's not fair. I gave her a slow, knowing smile. No, Lauren. Nothing about this has ever been fair. Then without another word, I closed the door in her face. 2 weeks passed. The property tax deadline came and went. I maintained complete radio silence. No calls, no texts, just peace. In the meantime, I restructured my investment portfolio with Patrick's help, redirecting every dollar that had once been siphoned into my family's demands, into my future. The difference? Massive. I could finally max out my retirement contributions. I could actually start planning for my financial security. Hell, I was even considering buying a vacation property for myself. And then, just as I was starting to enjoy the sweet, sweet silence, my inbox dinged with an email from Uncle James, my father's brother. Emily, what's going on with Robert and the lake house? He just asked me for a $10,000 loan to cover property taxes and penalties. Said you refuse to help the family anymore. This doesn't sound like you. I laughed. Dad had options, all right. He just didn't want to touch Lauren's trust fund, so now he was begging the extended family for money. And that was the moment I knew I had won. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and smiled. He still didn't get it, but he was about to. Instead of replying, I forwarded my father's text to the family group chat. Yes, the same group chat he had conveniently left me out of when planning that little ambush. Then, without adding a single word, I attached the full financial breakdown again, just in case anyone had forgotten the cold, hard numbers. Almost instantly, my phone started blowing up. "Aunt Christine, wait, he's still asking you for money? After everything? Uncle James. Unbelievable. I thought he'd have the decency to at least lay low after being exposed. Michael. He's out of his mind. Don't give him a cent, Emily." No response from my father. No response from my mother. But Lauren? Oh, she broke the silence in record time. "Lauren, you just love playing the victim, don't you? You humiliated Dad. You embarrassed Mom. And for what? Some money?" I leaned back in my chair, shaking my head. She still didn't get it either. Me. "Lauren, I have one simple question. If the roles were reversed and you had been the one paying for everything while I had a $350,000 trust fund in my name, would Dad still expect you to cover the taxes?" I watched the typing bubble appear, then disappear, appear again, stop. She had no answer because she knew. That was the last message I sent before blocking my father, my mother, and Lauren. Let them deal with their mess. But karma? Oh, karma had its own plans. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Michael and I could hear the grin in his voice. "Emily, you're gonna love this. Uncle Robert is losing it. Apparently, the bank denied his request for an extension on the property taxes. If he doesn't pay by the end of the month, they're slapping him with more penalties." I laughed. "So what's his plan? Beg another relative for money?" "Oh, he tried," Michael chuckled. "But the family's pissed. Ever since you laid it all out, no one wants to lend him a dime. Even Aunt Christine told him to figure it out himself. The best part, my father could afford the taxes. But doing so meant dipping into the sacred Lauren fund, something he had spent years refusing to do. And sure enough, less than a week later, my cousin sent me a screenshot of a furious text my father had blasted into the family chat. "Dad, if no one is willing to help, then we have no choice but to sell the lake house. I hope you're all happy." Oh, I was happy. Ecstatic, actually. Not because I wanted them to lose the house, but because for the first time my father was feeling the weight of his own choices. And me? I was in a whole different world now. With the money I had reclaimed from years of being their personal bank, I made a very satisfying purchase. A cozy waterfront condo, just a short drive from the very lake house my father had lorded over us for years. The difference? Mine was fully paid for. Mine was truly mine. And as I sipped my coffee on my private balcony, watching the sunset reflect over the water, I knew This was what real peace felt like. No obligations, no guilt, no leeches draining me dry. Just freedom. That night, my phone buzzed with an unexpected call. My mother. I let it ring twice before answering, already knowing where this was going. "Emily," she started hesitantly, "your father isn't handling this well. The lake house means everything to him." I leaned against my kitchen counter, exhaling slowly. More than treating his daughters equally? Silence, the kind that says everything. "Mom, I've put nearly $120,000 into this family. Dad built a $350,000 trust for Lauren without ever offering me a dime. Explain to me how that's fair." She sighed. "I know. I've always known it wasn't right, but your father, he makes the financial decisions. And you let him." I wasn't bitter, just done. "I understand, Mom, but this stops now." The next morning, I texted my father back. No words, just an attachment. A photo of the complete notarized financial record of every cent I'd contributed, the total circled in bold red ink. An hour later, my phone rang. I expected my father's fury. Instead, it was Lauren. Her voice was shaky. "Emily, is this real? Dad just showed me the documents. Over $118,000? "Every penny," I confirmed, verified by a forensic accountant. A long pause. Then her voice cracked. "I had no idea. Dad always made it sound like you were just chipping in here and there. He never told me you were covering everything while he built my trust fund." For the first time, I heard something I never expected from Lauren. Genuine remorse. "Emily, I don't know what to say. I feel terrible." I inhaled sharply. "It's not entirely your fault. Dad created this situation." "But I benefited from it," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I never questioned it. I just assumed I deserved the help." Another pause, then something that actually caught me off guard. "I'm going to fix this." "Lauren, what?" She hung up. The next day, an email landed in my inbox from my father's attorney. Attached were formal documents. The property taxes on the lake house, paid in full. But that wasn't all. A legally binding amendment to the ownership. I now held a 25% stake in the property. Lauren had used her trust fund to cover the taxes and legal fees. My phone buzzed again, a text from my father. This wasn't necessary. Family helps family. I stared at the message. Even now, he didn't get it, or refused to. Seconds later, another text, this time from my mother. "Your father is struggling with this, but I want you to know I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I should have done the same years ago." That evening, Lauren called again. "I told Dad the trust should be split evenly," she said. "He refused at first, but Uncle James and Aunt Christine backed me up. He's meeting with his financial advisor tomorrow to make the arrangements." A weight lifted, not because of the money. This was never about the money, but because of what it represented. Acknowledgement, fairness, respect. "Thank you, Lauren," I said sincerely. "No," she replied. "Thank you for making us finally face the truth."